Hello, we are team number 3 and we are about to explain what biology is. Biology is the natural science that studies life and living organisms, including their physical structure, chemical processes, molecular interactions, physiological mechanisms, development, and evolution. Biology degrees are extremely diverse and covers a wide range of subjects. Some options may include anatomy, cell and molecular biology, computational biology, ecology and evolution, forensic biology, marine biology, microbiology and molecular biosciences, neurobiology, and many others. But how was our universe created? How did it come to be the seemingly infinite place we know today? And what will become of it ages from now? These are the questions that have been puzzling philosophers and scholars since the beginning of time and led to some pretty wild and interesting theories. Some believe that life started with God creating all living things. Others, like scientists, astronomers, and cosmologists, believe that the universe as we know it was created in a massive explosion named the Big Bang. This theory states that all of the current and past matter in the universe came into existence at the same time, roughly 13.8 billion years ago. At this time, all matter was compacted into a very small ball with infinite density and intense heat called a singularity, which led to the creation and development of all living things on Earth.
Okay, living things. Internal environment changes. Organisms that are alive make changes to their internal environment called homeostasis. This represents the actions a body takes to protect itself. Living organisms grow. To grow, a living organism must have cells that divide in an orderly way to create new cells. The art of reproduction. Living organisms grow and reproduce to make more living organisms like themselves. The ability to adapt. Plants, animals, people, and even microorganisms that live can adapt to the world around them. Ability to interact. A living organism will interact with another living organism. The process of respiration. Respiration is more than just breathing. Organisms combine oxygen, converting the chemical energy in its substances. Living creatures move. To classify an organism as living, it must exhibit some form of movement. Eukaryote and prokaryote differences. The primary distinction between these two types of organisms is that eukaryotic cells have a membrane-bound nucleus and prokaryotic cells do not. The nucleus is where the eukaryotes store their genetic information. In prokaryotes, DNA is bonded together in the nucleate region, but is not stored within a membrane-bound nucleus. The nucleus is only one of many membrane-bound organelles in eukaryotes. Prokaryotes, on the other hand, have no membrane-bound organelles. Another important thing is the DNA structure. Eukaryote DNA consists of multiple molecules of double-stranded linear DNA, while that of prokaryotes is double-stranded and circular DNA.
Let's talk about the microscope. A microscope is a laboratory instrument used to examine objects that are too small to be seen by the human eye, just like that without something. In 1590, two Dutch spectacle makers and father and son team Hans and Charles Jensen created the first microscope. But the microscope was discovered by Leeuwenhoek when he observed animal and plant tissue, human sperm and blood cells, minerals, fossils, and many other things that nobody can see without a microscope. I'm talking about the history of the microscope, like more inside the history. The history of the microscope widens and expands from this point, with people from around the world working on similar upgrades and lens technology at the same time. August Kohler is credited with inventing a way to provide uniform microscope illumination that allowed specimens to be photographed, like in the microscope. Changing the topic and talking about the cell theory or just the cell, like that. In biology, we know that living organisms are made up of cells, that they are the basic structural organizational unit of all the organisms. There are three principles cell theories that anybody thinks or knows. 1. All living things are composed of one or more cells. 2. The cell is the basic unit of life. 3. New cells arise from existing cells. That's just the three principles cell theory. I don't know if there are more. And talking about the types of cells, there are two types of cells. The first is eukaryotic, which contain a nucleus, like just like that. That's the only one that have a nucleus. And prokaryotic, which don't have a nucleus. Prokaryotes are single-celled organisms, while eukaryotes can be either single-cell or multicellular.
Okay, now we are going to talk about cellular transport. When we talk about cellular transport, we talk about everything that enters or leaves, and this everything are meaning to cells that has to pass through the cell membrane. So this process is carried out by cellular transport. When we talk about cellular transport, we talk about two levels. We talk about a single level, like it is like one by one, and a massive transport. One thing we need to define is that the transport is through the cell membrane. So the first level, it is one by one, is divided into active cellular transport and passive cellular transport. Active cellular transport means that this process spends energy and goes against gradients of the concentration of the cell membrane. And the passive cellular transport it's the antonym of the active cellular transport. This means that this process does not waste energy and goes in favor of the concentration gradient. This passive cellular transport is divided into simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion. First of all, the simple diffusion, as its name says, is as simple as molecules crossing the lipid bilayer. And the facilitated diffusion takes an agent, a helping agent that is a membrane protein that helps the molecules through this passage. And these proteins are usually called channel proteins. So we talk about the first level, that is a single level, one by one. We talk about it. And next is the mass transport, is the second one. And it talks about the formation of small membrane vesicles that are incorporated into or separated from the plasma membrane, and allowing cells or even larger molecules to transfer the macromolecular and even larger particles across the membrane. When the transport of the membrane is massive, we talk about two levels, that is endocytosis and exocytosis. These both processes talk about expulsing or secreting and incorporating material into the cell. First of all, endocytosis is the one that incorporates material into the cell. It's divided into phagocytosis and in receiver-mediated endocytosis. So endocytosis is the process when the cell incorporates a material into its organism. And the exocytosis talks about the secretion. It's the opposite process of the endocytosis. It talks about the secretion of material produced by cells. It is divided into regulated exocytosis, that talks about an answer that the cells gives to an external factor. And this external factor gives an alert to release its products. And the constitutive exocytosis do not need an external factor. It's just a constant secretion.
Okay, the homeostasis is the state of steady internal, physical, and chemical conditions maintained by living systems. This condition is optimal functioning for the organisms and includes many variables, for example, the body temperature and a fluid balance. Your body systems work together to maintain the balance. If that balance is shifted or disrupted and homeostasis is not maintained, the results may not allow normal functioning of the organism. Okay, and the organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform a complex function. A biological system to perform one or more functions. Each organ does a particular job in the body and is made up of distinct tissues. All of these are required for survival, either of the person or of the species. There are 11 organ systems in the human body: the skeletal system, the muscular system, the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, the reproductive system, the urinary system, the lymphatic system, and the integumentary system. And I will mention the function of some of them. Okay, the skeletal system consists of bones in the body, as its name says. Muscular system, this system is made up of muscles that are responsible for the movements, and the respiratory system helps to trap the atmospheric oxygen from the air and supply it to the body. This means that it helps us to, as its name says, it helps us to breathe. And the cardiovascular system transports oxygen and nutrients to tissues to remove waste products.
Okay, so health and diseases. So we need to know that everything in our body is made up of mechanisms that allow us to maintain homeostasis. So now that we know this, disease, it's the loss of balance or the loss of homeostasis. World Health Organization describes health as a stage of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So now, adolescent health. Okay, adolescence is a stage between childhood and adulthood, and we are experimenting physical, cognitive, and psychosocial changes. So now I'm going to define what puberty is. Puberty is a period where sexual maturity is developed. And we need to understand that an adolescent is very difficult to what a child is. Very different, sorry. So an adolescent start experimenting changes and they have like two worlds. One of the worlds is when they still need their parents' affection and they still want to play. And the other world is when they start to want like feeling that they are mature and looking they are mature. Also, they start having new responsibilities that they didn't have when they were as their life as a child. So now the healthy lifestyles. Okay, so these lifestyles are gonna help us to be day by day healthier. So the first one is to sleep 7 to 8 hours at least per day. Also to exercise, but not too much. Everything needs to be limited. To maintain their body weight. To not drink alcohol, but if you're gonna drink, make sure that there's moderation in it. Having breakfast every day, to perform 3 meals a day, and the most important, not to smoke. This is all. Thank you.